Here's a sneak peek from today's episode.
I think people have a desire for more authentic connection. The Instagram era was like the aesthetic is really polished. It's airbrushed, and it's against these beautiful backdrops, and it has like the range of millennial shades. And I think the era that we had come into in the last 5 years is much more, it's authentic. It's a little, sometimes it's unhinged even, because there are people saying maybe what people might be feeling or thinking, but don't dare to say out loud on the internet.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Ting Ting. Ting Ting, welcome to the show.
Hey, Benjamin. Thanks so much for having me on Content Amplified. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited for this conversation. It's going to be a ton of fun. But before we dive in, Ting Ting, let's get to know you and your career.
Sure, yeah. I currently take care of marketing, all things marketing at a startup called Orum. We're a Series B company in the sales tech space, and we're the best and smartest way to get your sales rep generating pipeline over the phone. And we've been at this mission since 2019, and we're focused on delivering more live conversations and helping reps get better and more confident in these live conversations.
I love that. The technology sounds super cool. Something I'll definitely nerd out about at some point in time and look it up and all that kind of fun stuff. It's super
Absolutely.
cool. Ting Ting, you have this great background of a lot of experience in marketing and tech. And when we were discussing opportunities for this episode, you brought up this phrase that I've kind of latched onto and I really love. It's
Yes.
called the B2C-ing of B2B content marketing.
Yes.
When you wrote that sentence out and had
Mm.
this phrase, what does that kind of mean? What do you mean when we're B2C-ing B2B content?
Yeah. I think as much as we pretend like there's a severely clear severed separation between our personal life and their work and our work life, or the way that we consume content in our personal life versus at work life, the consumer side of content is moving much, much faster. And it's also influencing the way that we interact with content at work, and in the B2B side. So as a result, you see more and more companies producing content like they do content for consumers. So I find that trend super fascinating. Just in the last 10 years that I've been in the game, I've watched multiple platforms start to look like each other. Work platforms start to exhibit the UI and UX of Facebook, of Instagram, of YouTube, of also TikTok, and also have editing capabilities in them as well. So I think that trend is a really fascinating one, and one that we can all learn a lot from.
So one of the questions that comes to mind, because I do agree, I think this is a trend. I think a while ago, for a long time as businesses, we felt like we were advertising to other businesses. And somewhere along the line realized, wait a minute, we're actually advertising to the people inside of the businesses, and they are people. And this is the kind of content that people want. So we need to change our strategies. At the same time, I think that businesses are also hesitant to do like this overly entertaining kind of content. Things of that nature, because they feel like everyone at work has an intent and purpose. They have to get something done, so they have to get to the point. How do you balance out entertainment versus education versus, the responsibility of the business of selling and pitching your product?
Yeah.
How do you balance out all those different areas?
First of all, I think that the first thing you said about recognizing that we're actually connecting with individuals and not businesses is a really insightful one. And it was a big, when I realized that it was such a big unlock that businesses are just groups made up of groups of people making decisions. Sometimes it's one person making a decision. Sometimes you're influencing a group of people. And in that case, you have to think about the group dynamic. So I think that's, first of all, that's a really big insight. And to your question about how do we balance the level of entertainment, or maybe like the level of risk that you're willing to take in your content, and that has everything to do with your brand, your audience. So for example, I think for companies in cybersecurity, where the pillars might be trust and being very ironclad, it might not be very funny to talk about things that can can go wrong there. Or, it could be that you're in a space that's very competitive and you want to stand out, and you can stand out via taking a little bit of risk. But I think it all just depends the context around your business and the brand strategy or marketing strategy that you have set out in, based on market dynamics, competitive dynamics. What is the stance and position that you want to take as a brand? And how can you push those boundaries to get people to pay attention to what you have to say?
Yeah, I love that. So when we talk about the B2C of content, an idea comes to my mind, and I'm curious tactically as a business as I'm trying to execute on this and have more of a B2C feel to my B2B content. Is this more being done by individuals inside the business through thought leadership, through executives or thought leaders or subject matter experts in the business? Or is it still being done from like the brand accounts? Is it a hybrid?
Mm-hmm.
Tactically, kind of, does it matter who's saying it? Or is
Mm-hmm.
it purely what they're saying when it comes down to it to make it a lot more relatable?
I think both of those are levers that a company could have, right? So I can speak a little bit to us. So as I mentioned earlier, we're in the sales tech space where I think there's a natural inclination to trust people over brands necessarily. Another reason is because our space is so dynamic and moves so quickly. People tend to trust a person's statement, or they might trust their network or a community more so than a brand account. And so in this case, you might see some thought leaders at Orum who are producing a lot of their own content. They're educated on the brand pillars, and what we stand for, right? And so there's a little bit of that there is that resonance there, but at the same time, we value their specific voices because that's actually a more authentic way that our audience might relate to our brand. I think at the same time, there is space for like something coming from a brand. So, as an example, I've seen a few brands like do very clever sort of like they're kind of like lower quality entertainment short videos, and those feel very authentic, right? As a way to demonstrate, the way of life or company culture or how colleagues at Orum might relate to each other. That I think that content makes a lot of sense living on coming from the brand itself.
And I love that. That's an interesting call out that I've noticed that trend as well, kind of the quality side of things. It feels like there's this trend where because of B2C, TikTok, and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, that these brands are embracing employees taking an iPhone and shooting video, in vertical and posting it to their account. Do you feel like that's a way to have it feel more organic, to kind of scale down the quality of things? Does that make it more
Mm.
B2C in this space?
I think people have a desire for more authentic connection. The Instagram era was like the aesthetic is really polished. It's airbrushed, and it's against these beautiful backdrops, and it has like the range of millennial shades. And I think the era that we had come into in the last 5 years is much more, it's authentic, it's a little, sometimes it's unhinged even, because there are people saying maybe what people might be feeling or thinking, but don't dare to say out loud on the internet. And so I think the lower quality production it's more of a signal that what we crave in the sphere of the internet is more authenticity. It's more like offhand commentary versus something that's really well prepared and produced, which like you didn't need 10 people sitting in a room like writing the script, and then like a group of 5 people working on a production and then a post production and then like editing it. So I think it speaks more to our desire for more authenticity both in our work life and in our personal life.
I love that. So when you're looking at building this authentic brand
Mm.
that people can latch onto and relate with, I love that you have these thought leaders inside of the company that are publishing and doing all sorts of great things. How do you, A, encourage that behavior in the company to help your brand, yet B, help make sure everyone's saying or singing to the same tune or is in the
Mm.
same key, so to say, when it comes to how you talk about what it is you do and how you do it?
Yeah, I'm smiling because it's certainly not easy and something that we've had challenges with as well. I tend to think about it along like two axes. One is just enablement. Enablement. Everyone at Orum should understand the brand and what we stand for. At the same time, we're definitely not spoon feeding them what to say. People should be, at the end of the day, it's their LinkedIn is their own social platform, and we encourage them to share what feels authentic to their experience at the company using the product. Your other question was like, how do you encourage people to do it? It's not easy. I think some people, they have a natural inclination, and you don't need to push them for it. I think for some others, sometimes it's about maybe removing the obstacle, or helping them with any fear they might have. Removing the obstacle might look like, hey, here's some topics that you might want to try, or like, hey, here's a kit that you can play with. Or it could be like, how might chat GPT like help you formulate this thought that you feel brave enough putting it on LinkedIn. Or it might be, hey, we're going to spend 5 minutes as a team just doing this together. So I kind of think about it from two ends, but it's certainly not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I love that.
And I love to learn from other leaders who figure this out, because it's something that I'm sure is experienced by many brands.
Well, and I think most people that I've talked to have a very similar sentiment, and I think that
Mhm.
you're spot on where you're doing the internal training, you're doing the encouragement, you're helping people do it, but at the same time, hats off to you. You're okay with them having their own unique voices and realize the value in these employees being their authentic selves and sharing authentic content. Who knows, maybe their point of view relates to your product and someone in a really powerful way. I think that's really meaningful. So I think you're doing it right. I think this is kind of how it should be done. And I think sometimes the answer is we really don't have full control. And honestly, that's kind of okay. Like that's kind of where we want to be at because,
Yeah.
authenticity isn't control in most circumstances.
Exactly. And it's, and a sales tech brand isn't like JP Morgan or something, right? Where I think you need to convey a very different type of brand. And I have to give a shout out to Adam Sokol, who's on my team. He runs and leads most of our content initiatives at Orum, and he's a great internal and external evangelist of a lot of the work that we do. So
Love that.
I would be
That's
love.
awesome. Adam, hats off to you. So with that, so I have one final question because we're running out of time. This is a really unique question to your business. Okay. You have a sales team at a tech company that has sales software.
Yes.
Do you dog food? I don't know if that's like a terrible term. We always say we dog food our own stuff. We eat our own product. We use our own
Of course.
product. Do you do that? And then how are you using that as authentic content? Like it seems like there's a really cool
Mm.
opportunity. How are you sharing those internal experiences external in your content to your own employees using your product?
We absolutely dog food our product. Absolutely. I think, first of all, it's a privilege to have a sales team that sells sales software and speaking to other sellers trying to sell this sales software, because it's much easier for there to be, understanding between our product team and our sellers, and our sellers and our prospects. So absolutely. And I think there has certainly been ways that we've taken advantage of content. We have to be a little bit careful, because in the live conversations that record, there's typically PII, so we have to make sure that that's not something that's public. So that's something that we've had to figure out how to get around. But we've internally listened to our team's calls all the time and learn from them. Within Orem, there are ways to sort through like libraries of calls and listen. Managers use that as an example as well. So it's not only, maybe we're not using it as much as external content, but it's a great tool for internal enablement, and many of our customers use that as well as a source for internal enablement.
I love that. Plus, the amount of training you probably have to do internally isn't as high as a lot of other businesses because they just happen to know the product because they use it all day, every day. So I think that's
Yeah.
super cool. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you for picking that up.
Yeah, Ting Ting, we have run out of time
Oh my
and this has
gosh.
been amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For anyone who would like to reach out and continue the conversation with you, how and where can they find you online?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. And if you want to check out what we do at Orum, it's www.orum.com. And we'd love to figure out how to help you get more live conversations to your teams.
I love it. And we'll link to everything in the show notes. Ting Ting, again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Benjamin, for having me.